Welcome to June's Ohio ISP Gathering, supporting SSAs. Thank you for listening. I'm Leslie Powell, a Regional Support Facilitator with DODD. This recording is specifically for SSAs, Service and Support Administrators, who work at the County Board of Developmental Disabilities. If you are a QIDP, a Qualified Intellectual Disabilities Professional, or other associated ICF personnel, you may want to exit this video and open a video with QIDP in the title. Joining me for this recorded gathering is Amanda Brooks, Regional Support Facilitator with DODD, and Lisa Combs, Service and Support Advisor for Ohio Association of County Boards. We want to start by thanking all of you for the work that you do to support people with disabilities. As in recent months, this June gathering will take place in a recorded video format. We will have regional office hours where you can discuss and ask questions, and it will be conducted later this month. The dates and the links of office hours for SSAs can be found on the OhioISP webpage at dodd.ohio.gov/OhioISP and look under OhioISP support. Before we go over the objectives for June's gathering, I want to remind everyone April's gathering went over part 1, back to the basics on outcomes. If you would like to view the gathering, please go to the OhioISP webpage under Regional Support Gathering. For June's gathering, we will include 2 separate videos and office hours for SSAs and QIDPs. You can find this information again on the OhioISP webpage under Regional Support Gathering. So now we take a look at the objectives for June's gathering. We want to confidently write outcomes and identify experiences that a person needs to be successful. We want to clearly outline service and supports that a person needs. And we want to understand the difference between outcomes, experiences, and supports.
As Leslie said, Outcomes Part 1 was reviewed in April, and so we thought we would start off today by doing a quick review of what outcomes are and why we develop outcomes. Number 1, outcomes are changes that a person wants to achieve. Outcomes are based off discovery assessment results and drive both paid and unpaid services and supports. So we should see reference to the outcomes throughout the Ohio ISP. Number 2, outcomes are meant to help people achieve new and different experiences. So they should describe how things will be different from how they are today. Sadly, there are some people who have not had a chance to explore their interest or have been provided limited opportunities in the past. Teams need to remember that people only know what they have been exposed to. This reminds me of a quote that my coworker often refers to by Michael Small. It says, people need to have a life of their own before they can have a dream of their own. So help the person start discovering new interests and areas to explore. Number 3, a person's outcome should be driven by the person and what is important to them. In other words, it should be meaningful and help lead them to their best life. The days of general toileting or oral hygiene outcome or goals are gone. We have seen those outcomes where the person is consistently refusing because it is something important to their family or other support person, but not something important to them. These are things like making the bed or brushing teeth. Teams should strive to find the hook, the thing that is important to the person. Number 4, outcomes may also relate to what is important for the person. But there needs to be a balance. It's not either or, it's and in both. Remember, if an outcome is only important for the person, they may not be motivated to work on it. Connecting an important for, such as a personal care or hygiene task, with an important to, such as finding employment or a boyfriend or girlfriend, has a much better chance of success. It creates the buy-in for the person to want to work on it because it will help them get to the outcome that is important to them. And finally, number 5, plans should have specific set of experiences that lead to the outcome's accomplishment. These were often referred to as action steps previously. The team needs to identify exactly what needs to happen to help the person, who will help them, how often they will receive the supports, and by when they will achieve their goal. All people deserve to have lives they find both meaningful and fulfilling. As the quarterback of the team, it is your job to facilitate those conversations with the team to find what is important to the person, what they dream of, and make those connections with experiences and supports to get them to the outcomes they truly desire. This is just the beginning of making a positive impact for the people you serve.
So, some of you may have already seen this, but I absolutely love this openfuturelearning.org meme that I found. It says, "Dear Service Land, if only there were points for how many times you say person-centered." Oh my goodness. So I know that I am all things person-centered and outcomes, and everybody gets tired of hearing me, but I'm not going to stop, right? I think it's really important to kind of think about, a lot of us have been saying we've been doing person-centered for a long time. And if you look at the person-centered myths that I found, and I didn't make this up, actually, I pulled it off of somewhere. I think the biggest myths is that the first 2 here, right? 3 actually. We're already doing it. Person-centered, we're already doing it. I know it feels like we're doing it, but really, I don't think it happens as often as we all think. Does it just mean asking the person what you want? What do you want? And I want to tell you, no, it doesn't mean that. That is one slice of the pie, but only one slice. There's much more. And then that a person-centered planning just means a person gets what they want. This is absolutely a myth, right?
And
so, yeah, go for it.
And I think, Lisa, when you're talking about that, one of the myths that I keep hearing is that the OhioISP is going to, it's just going to be a magical piece of paper, and it's just going to be person-centered. And, it will, the assessment and the plan will assist with the person-centeredness, but they really need to take time and look at, what the individual's interests are, and it'll help promote the goals and the dreams and assisting them to gain control. But just because it's the OhioISP, it doesn't automatically mean that it's going to become person-centered. And, some things, an SSA told me one time, like, when you put junk in, you get junk out. So you really want to kind of take the time to look at, what you're putting in the plan, and, looking at these myths and what person-centered really is.
Yes, for sure, Leslie. I can't agree more. I know I had a boss in Lucas County that used to, we used to be told that if somebody is putting big sticky paper on the wall, then they must be doing a person-centered meeting, right? And of course, we all know that's not true. You can put big sticky paper on there that isn't very person-centered. So, I think it's important to really tie into that what person-centered really is, right? And I love how it talks about, certainly you recognize individual interests and capacities and their goals and dreams. That's what we've been kind of focusing on, that number 2. But it's also super unique to the individual, right? Once you learn about that, how a person wants to move forward is different for everybody. It's also about helping people get control over their life, which goes back to these 5 valued experiences. It's also about increasing opportunities for participation in the community and making relationships. That goes back to those 5 valued experiences. And it's really making a plan that helps turn whatever that is, how we're going to help people get control of their life, how we're going to help them participate in their community. What's the plan to get that to happen? That's when you really are doing person-centered planning. So I hope we get to share some examples today that maybe we get a little bit closer But it never really stops, right? Like, it's not like you can say, I did person-centered planning this one day and now we're done. I don't know, Leslie.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's never done. When you're working with the person and you're individualizing, their plan and talking to them, it can change. And I always use this, theory with myself. January 1st, I always plan on going on a diet, and I'm going to become more healthier, and I'm going to um, exercise daily, and within a month, my plans have changed with my outcome, and it kind of fails, and I change it. So when you look at person-centered and with outcomes, it's okay. You might what might be important for me today might not be important tomorrow, and so really taking the time to listen to the person and talk through and have those important conversations. That's what we're really looking at when we're talking about person-centeredness.
It is the experiences that lead to successful outcomes. So experiences are the things that help people achieve their outcome. They should align with the outcome and should show a clear path to success. Remember, outcomes describe something the person wants and will accomplish. The experiences are what gets the person from where they are currently to where they want to be, to that outcome. So you want to list experiences that need to happen for each outcome. This is like the team's to-do list. They need to be unique to the person and to that outcome. Written with agreement from the team, and they should indicate who. This could be a combination of providers, the individual themselves, family members, SSAs, mental health providers. Who's going to support the person with that experience? What are each of them responsible for? And the frequency. How often is it expected to occur? A person's team, the entire team, should understand what the person wants to accomplish and what supports they need to get there. The experiences are the steps to making a person's dream a reality. So we thought it would be helpful if we identified some common struggles in regards to outcomes that we've seen throughout this state so that we can really help each other learn from some of those common struggles that we've had. So one of those struggles is teams that sometimes can't think of many experiences for an outcome. Leslie, can you talk to us a little bit about this, why we might be experiencing this struggle?
Absolutely. And usually that if somebody can't think of an experience for an outcome, it's usually because the outcome itself is probably just an experience. So you want to take a look at that and review your information that you've already collected in your assessment, and kind of talk to the team about, like, okay, so we have an experience. How do we make the overall outcome? And sometimes it takes us going back in and reading the assessment information to come up with really what the real outcome is.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful. We've also come across outcomes that, like, they're identified as an outcome, but it's already happening for the person. So it wouldn't actually be an outcome, because an outcome is something that the person wants to achieve, or something that will be different from how it is today. And so we found that those things are usually probably more of a support. And just like you said, go back to the assessment to find out what would be better identified as an outcome, how something would be different for this person from how it is today.
Right. And, those are the great points. And, another common struggle we hear a lot is all the outcomes that I write all look similar. And that's where we want to go back and we want to revisit again the assessment, because the assessment is where the key of all the information is. And we want to make sure that we ensure and update with each person's unique information. Use that information to drive the outcome. And if you're finding yourself coming up with the same types of experiences and outcomes, it's probably not person-centered or individualized. So again, just go back to that assessment.
Yeah, that assessment is really key to developing outcomes, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And when you know, look at stuff, sometimes the team gets burned out, is tired, they struggle to produce ideas. You know, take in consideration bringing somebody new into the team to help brainstorm. Oftentimes, when we get stuck, you know, in our personal lives, you know, we go to our friends and we say, "Hey, can you help us out with that?" Same thing here. You know, you're bringing somebody new to get a fresh, new perspective.
Yeah, I found it helpful. Sometimes we just get too close to the situation that we can't see beyond, right? And so
Absolutely.
I found it helpful to bring in a coworker even just to say, "Hey, can you take a look at this information?" And sometimes they can just bring in questions that you've never thought of before or possibilities that, you know, by just looking, having fresh eyes looking at the information, they can see.
Right, right. Great points.
Now, Lisa, I've heard you use this quote many times that the SSA is not the secretary of the team, but rather the architect. Is this something you can expand on for us?
Oh, sure. That quote just keeps on changing, Amanda. You know, I think I have said it a lot. I think the reason why I talk about that is that I feel like because of so much training and how our system has really encouraged SSAs to kind of like do a lot of kind of observing, monitoring, documenting, those kind of words. I think sometimes we forget about the skills and abilities that we as SSAs and team, you know, and team leads, team facilitates really have. And so I really want to encourage people when it comes to outcomes, super important that SSAs come into the table leading the team and really helping guide the team, come up with your own ideas, be willing to have people shoot those ideas down, help other people develop ideas. It's actually a time where we get to use some of the expertise that we've all learned through our lives and through our jobs. And so really, you know, when it comes to outcomes especially, the SSA really needs to kind of help the team frame what might help this person get a good life. You know, this goes into this whole idea of thinking outside the box. There is no right and wrong, which you guys, Amanda, have told me many times, outcome as long as the team comes up with it. But can we push a little bit farther and get some things that are a little bit new, a little bit different, that are really leading to those 5 valued experiences that we talked about? So, you know, please, SSAs out there, you know, do your best to not just document what's going on in the team, not just write notes of what's going on in the team, but actually lead the team and build that outcome and build that better life for people on your caseload. It's not easy, but it's very rewarding. So.
Absolutely. And I think it really puts it into good perspective that sometimes we can get so buried with the paperwork that we do feel just like a secretary and like we're just writing down what people are telling us, but really taking that active role in pushing the team forward towards a better outcome, a better life for the person.
Yeah, it also reminds me, Amanda, of when I had a boss, a supervisor one time who really helped me when I first started in the SSA role, and he used to use the words, not in the ISP, that's a chance for us to really paint a picture of what's going on in somebody's life, right? And really tell us, you know, what's been tried, what does the person really want, what are their dreams, what are their fears? And I love that now. As I read through some people's ISPs, that's one of the things that sometimes I feel like is lacking. I really don't have a picture. Instead, it's just kind of a, you know, kind of the notes, the documentation of it, of somebody's life. So, you know, I would really invite SSAs to really paint a picture in your ISP while at the same time really helping build that better life and those outcomes for people. that you work with.
Absolutely. I think it's a fantastic quote. Thanks for sharing. So you're ready to start writing an outcome, but you're not sure where to begin. Start by just listening to the person. What's important to them? What do they want to achieve? And what are their dreams? The OhioISP assessment will help you answer these questions. While using the OhioISP, really use those summaries at the end of each assessment section, as they should identify the most important things discovered throughout that entire section. They can be used to help lead the team to an outcome. Be sure to use those check boxes throughout the assessment to identify if a potential outcome is identified in an area. So as you're working through all those questions in a section, if the team talks about, maybe that's a potential outcome, check that box. So when you get to planning, you're reminded to explore that potential outcome. This will help guide the team during planning to explore potential outcomes for the person and ensure it is based off of all that valuable information gathered throughout the assessment. Look for those important 2s and 4s that are not happening for someone. Use the person's skills and abilities to identify how they might use those gifts, their interests, their talents to contribute to their own success. Consider what valued roles someone aspires to have or wants to improve on. It could be to be a church greeter, a full-time employee, maybe be a boyfriend or a girlfriend, a concert goer, or even a world traveler. You won't know unless you ask, unless you use those assessment questions to really discover information about a person. And don't forget to focus on the why. We see many outcomes that are generic and not specific to the person. So indicate why. Use those words like so that or in order to help reveal the why of an outcome. If you're working on writing an outcome for someone that doesn't communicate verbally, use your observation skills and seek collateral information from those who know the person best. So this might be their family, the direct support professional working with them, anybody that has that close relationship with the person that knows them best. Use those resources to help gather information and come up with ideas as potential outcomes for the person. Exploring opportunities or interests can be an outcome in itself. So make sure if you're going to do that, that the team has a way to track what comes out of those exploration activities, and then use that information to help guide you for potential outcomes in the future. And for those with significant medical issues, outcomes based on quality of life, quality care may be more prominent. And Lisa will give us an example of someone that an outcome was written for where she utilized this.
So here, I think everybody's been clamoring. They want some examples, right? And I want to be really transparent with everybody right now that, I'm going to throw out some examples for you all, and some of them are going to have some good things, and some of them are probably going to have some things that you're going to be like, why would she do that? One thing I've learned over the last year of reading a lot of different ISPs and being in a lot of trainings about outcomes is that we can always get better, right? Or looking at it after the fact, it's always just say, man, why didn't I say this, right? So let's everybody just give each other some grace in the idea that, it is hard to write outcomes. It's hard to get everything in it. And there is no perfect one. We said that earlier today. So I want to tell you about Joe a little bit. Joe is somebody who, when I met Joe, he was, the team was all fixated on getting him to an Ohio State football game. And there's nothing wrong with going to an Ohio State football game. I mean, we all love Ohio State football. But I met Joe, I was a little worried, like, is that really the ticket to a good life? Going back to those 5 valued experiences, Sure, that's helping Joe share an ordinary place, go an everyday place, right? Although it's not every day for me. But what else could we do about his love of Ohio State? So that's how this kind of started, right? And so, I would invite the team to really look a little deeper into what does it mean to be an Ohio State fan? How does that help you get the good life? So we're going to walk through this. It looks like a lot of words. I'm sorry. It is kind of wordy. But again, reminding everybody that, this is about painting a picture. The reader for these outcomes is obviously the person served, their family, but also the providers. And we want them to know why we're doing this stuff. This is kind of the recipe. So yes, it's a bit wordy. You'll have to zoom in eventually, but let's walk through it. So in the summary of progress, at the very top, we say that Joe has been wanting to go to an Ohio State football game, which he has in the past, and team wants him to go back, but they haven't been able to get tickets recently, and this is a big struggle. So we're gonna look at what are we gonna do with that. And so the outcome is that he will have opportunities to hang out with other Ohio State fans and will be known for his love of the Buckeyes. When we asked Joe, what's so great about going to a game? He was like, the fans, the cheering, the energy, all those things. And so we started really talking to Joe about where else could we find that? Where else could Joe spend time with fans and have other people cheering and excitement with football and wearing his favorite Ohio State shirt and things like that? And so that was kind of like, I was like, maybe we could go to a game, but maybe we could do some other things too. Now I go on to explain in the details to know, which I think is really important. This is so important in determining the why. Why are we working on this? Why is Joe hanging out with Ohio State fans? And it tells you really clearly in this, that Joe and his family love Ohio State sports and that they have a special tie into football and track because he had family members who played those historically at OSU. It tells you that Joe doesn't communicate with words, but that his family tells us that as soon as he hears people talking about Ohio State or it comes on, that he just lights up. And he gets much more animated, especially when he hears the fight song, and he loves to wear OSU gear. So that kind of tells you a lot, like, okay, this makes sense why this is going to help Joe get the good life. So the team brainstormed some ideas, and again, these might be wordy. Everybody's doesn't have to be wordy. This might not be perfect. But what could happen? So we really wanted to kind of incorporate both day service and HPC in this one. So we just threw this out as a team to talk about what could be going on at day services with day service providers to help out with this. And right away, one of the day service providers said, we have a lot of guys that like to talk about football. So we started talking about a sports corner, right? And, maybe during football season, they could have kind of a weekly or every other week sports corner to have people talk about football, what games went on, do a little critical review, who do you think is going to win next week, all that fun stuff. So I give some notes about that. We specifically, for Joe, talk about giving him opportunities to answer yes/no questions and finding other ways for him to participate. Make sure that Ohio State is in the talk. Let's find that out. And those are all things for the day service and Joe to do, and they're going to work on that hopefully, at least 2 times a month. We also talked to the HPC provider and said, what could you do to help Joe be more prepared for those sports corners? So again, talking about what games are online, making sure that he's gotten to watch the games, talking about some of that prior to that, and even track we talked about, like maybe we can't get him to a football game, but maybe we can follow track because that might be a little easier. Another brainstorm idea that really came out of one of the HPC providers was really about Joe joining an Ohio State fan club. So, researching different fan clubs and booster groups that might help Joe get a hold of tickets, super important. Both providers were willing to help out with that. Here was one that really we talked about too, is that maybe once a season or twice a season we could have hosting a tailgate party for Ohio State, one at home and one at the day service place. And everybody seemed really excited about that. In fact, they think that sometimes they tried it, but they haven't really followed through. So that was something that both providers were really excited about. One thing that I really like is to make sure that when we do these events that we have pictures of Joe anytime that he's doing something to do with football, because we want to work on that 5 valued experiences of contribution and belonging, right? And it's hard. It might be hard to remind Joe through words all the time that he really had some good times. But if you take pictures of him at a tailgate party or in a fan club event or during these sports corners, that might help him remember that he really is an Ohio State fan. So we asked both staff to go ahead and take pictures of any time we have these events. My other big pet peeve is certainly having up to OSU fanware. You know, a lot of people, you know, that we work with tend to not have that. They might, you know, get a lot of resale or pass down shirts. And family let us know that that's really important to Joe to have that up-to-date fanware, you know, and it's not that expensive sometimes to go out and buy those things, especially for the track team or whatever that maybe his family member played on. So we added that. And then we also added making a playlist of different Ohio State songs, right? Something that you could play during the tailgate party, something that he could play anytime he wants, or to pump himself up before the game or during halftime. So we really integrated day service and HPC, Joe and his family, into this outcome. And when you look at what will progress look like, I think it's really important to see that, you know, you're going to restate a lot of what needed to happen in the experiences. Joe will be going to tailgate parties. His friends will know that he's an Ohio State fan. He might meet other Ohio State fans, and he possibly may even get access to tickets for track or football games. So we worked that in, and then I think it's interesting to have this opportunity to write some history in there. Again, it says Joe's uncle played football for OSU and his sister ran track for OSU, and the family has routinely hosted game day parties, but due to his mother's health, they cannot host these as often. He often wears the Ohio State fanware, but he's usually outdated and purchase it from resale stores, so his mom thinks he would love to have a new shirt for each new season. So again, you know, this just gives you a lot of information. I really feel like it paints a picture, and I hope that it's helpful to you. Granted, it might not be perfect. You all might look at it and come up with ideas. You'll notice we don't even have anything about going to a game here, right? This is all just like ways to kind of get entrenched into Ohio State. So depending on what your team says, you might, you know, want to build more or less in there. So just one example. Thanks. So here's Eddie. Here's another example, and this is one that was, I believe, shared on the DODD website, and I love this plan. I've read through it quite a few times, and it's been a really great training plan, and I hope that whoever wrote it is welcomes some feedback, which I actually think I already talked to them, so it's okay. I think that's one of the most important things to remember when we're looking at these examples, right? There's always better, there's always worse. It's really just having a good discussion and looking at, does it really paint this picture and really work the person towards those 5 valued experiences and a better life? So for Eddie, you know, his ISP was really interesting. He was working in a group employment setting, and he was really excited. It was really obvious that he really wanted to get his driver's license. So let's just read through a little bit about Eddie and see what it, you know, I did change up a few things, but he navigates the public transit system well. He's been in travel training, like I said. He's been working in group employment. He also rides his bike places, and he's super proud of his independence in traveling through the community. Additionally, he really wants to get a landscaping job in the community, and so you know, one of the things that I thought about with this is that anybody who knows folks that work in the landscaping field, a driver's license is really important. And so I kind of took Eddie's group employment goal that was in the example on DODD, along with this HPC kind of goal that was kind of separate, and I kind of thought, what would it be like if we would have put those two together? So when you look at the outcome, we still keep the outcome is that he will obtain his driver's license. And, you know, I want to point out that it's really important that we say the what and the why. And you can see in the prompts, it even says, what does the person want to accomplish and why? And you can see that I just kind of put what he wants to accomplish. It's pretty obvious. Most people want to get their driver's license, by the way, if they really are able to. And if, but I want you to kind of remember that you can explain the why in the rest of the plan too. So that details to know is another great place to explain the why. And I was trying to be less wordy, but you know, it still looks wordy. So in the details to know, you see that having a driver's license is really important to Eddie because he wants to be independent. He wants to drive like his roommates, his friends. And once he gets his license, he'll have more opportunities to work in the landscaping business as a with a driver's license is really required at most of those jobs. So there we've started to kind of like braid those together, that it will help him both in his job and in his own personal life to have more independence. So when we look at the kind of things that happen, I really kept a lot of the same kind of goals, experiences that were there before, finding a driving school and classes to practice driving that it looks like his HPC provider is going to help him. But, what if his group employment person was also willing to help out with that, right? He's going to ask around for recommendations from people who have their license. They're going to find appropriate driving schools and classes. Maybe he needs some extra special, somebody, I know Capabilities does some work with people that need extra driving time. Maybe he doesn't, I'm not sure about that. But, we've identified both the group employment and HPC could be helpful there. Also talking about the importance of the money related to that, that is between Eddie and his payee. And then practicing for his written test and the driver's exam. So again, we've got, going to the practice test, doing it online, audio and written. We even talked about maybe the group employment provider will encourage Eddie to practice online for his written test during breaks at work. It's a great thing to do at work. We talked about Eddie having a better understanding of job requirements for landscaping jobs. So maybe Eddie's supervisors at the group employment could look into job qualifications in landscaping and show Eddie which landscaping jobs need a driver's license, because that's really important. One thing you'll find out is that you're somewhat limited in the landscaping business if you don't have a driver's license. So that might help keep Eddie motivated to stay on task and keep on, practicing for his driver's test. And then eventually, hopefully, Eddie will schedule and have the car to use for his driver's exam, and his family members are helping him with that. His HPC provider is willing to help him with that, and hopefully we'll do it. So when we look at how progress looks, right? Well, he's going to be in progress of obtaining the driver's license and understand how that will impact his ability to get landscaping jobs. And really, it should say right there, like, he will actually have his driver's license. That's what it should say, by the way. See, I already see better. Look, I review, and I'm like, oh, really, what I really want is for him to have his driver's license. When you look at that history, I think it's really important as you read Eddie's plan that was shared on the DODD website. He thrives on independence. Not even attempted to really get his driver's license from anything that's in the plans that I read, except for when he was maybe 16. But he really needs a lot of encouragement from his team. So he's, probably had that kind of, initial like, oh, I'm never going to get my driver's license. And then, kind of has been that. So it's really important for the team to continue to encourage him, really help him, and find those people that are willing to help out. So, again, this is not the exact example that is on the DODD website. This is just me saying, hey, I wonder how this would work. This might be better. Maybe we could build this in instead of having two separate outcomes. Maybe we could have this one. So that would be it. All right. Well, here's my last example. And this is somebody who's just super dear to me. We're going to call him D. And I'm sure a lot of my folks back in my home county might know who I'm talking about. But so D is a wonderful man that is in his 50s at this point. He's very close to my age. And I've known him since he was in his teenage years. But D has a lot of medical issues. He was born with no sight and lots of different diagnoses, and really has outlived his life expectancy by years, to be quite honest. Many people didn't think he would make it out of high school, and that's when I met him, was in high school. So I know it's probably hard to read this, but just so you know, like, he's really surprised everyone. In the summary of progress, like, he has lived more than 20 years, and this team is the team that came to me and said, what kind of outcome do we have to have for a guy who is, lived 20 years past his life expectancy? And I was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea, right? Like, this is, but as I got to know the team and I got to go out and talk with the family, I learned that, his parents are just a huge support to him, and they are so thankful for every day that he's around. And they really just are in this phase of their life that they just want to celebrate that he's been here. And sorry. and that they want to thank people. They want to see people from their past and thank them for everything they have done for Dee. So,
Lisa, I'm sorry, Lisa. I think that's just so interesting. His story when it comes, with his outcome, when the family want to reach out and have his past connect and say thank you. And I think that is just a great outcome. And I was just wondering, like, how do you determine what needs to happen and how it should happen?
Oh, geez, Leslie, that is that question comes to me so many times. I love that you asked, right? So what I have seen, and I learned it from you guys. I don't know. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but is it looks like to me what makes sense is really what needs to happen is more what's Dee going to see different in his life than what he might have been doing last year, right? From his perspective, and then how it should happen is more about those kind of the team's recipe, right? What's mom going to do? What's the HPC provider going to do? What's the SSA going to do? What's dad going to do? So that is more that recipe idea for the provider on the how it should happen, and it might have a little more specifics, whereas the what needs to happen is really more from the individual's perspective. Does that make sense to you, Leslie?
Oh, absolutely, that makes sense. Thanks for sharing with that.
Okay, well, so our team got together and we really started saying, how can we honor his life, right? How can we honor, and what we found out is it's not only about Dee's life, it's about his family's life. His family has become a huge support in the community to other people. One thing Dee has going, he has a lot of medical problems. He uses oxygen now, and he has a trach, and he has G2Ps and stuff, but he still lights up and laughs and cries, all those things that kept us all involved in his life. He's become a really good listener, and he listens to everything going on around him. As soon as somebody walks in the room, he's listening to see if he recognizes that voice. So you'll see in our experiences and what needs to happen that the biggest thing is that he's going to get a chance to spend time with people visiting his home. He's kind of gotten in that, time where, it's mostly staff and family, and he's lost touch because he hasn't been in any kind of day program. So the family said it would be so amazing if people from his past who he really remembers, which I was one of those people, and I watched him light up. He recognized my voice right away. So you see that Dee's going to get to spend time with people, but how is that going to happen? Mom is going to invite people from Dee's past to come and visit and get pictures and video and audio of them talking about what Dee has brought to their life. So, why does it say that? I'm going to be honest with you. We had an ulterior motive. We started thinking, wouldn't it be so cool to have a video recording of people appreciating Dee and how he changed their life. So that leads into that idea of the 5-8 experiences, not only about Dee getting to see people from his past, but maybe Dee hearing how people really respect him and value him. So we talked to Mom about saying, I'm sorry, I'm coughing, about, ask people how did Dee change your life? That would be one question, and then just any kind of memories. Then we also have, we want to have him have caregivers who know how to care for him. And this was Mom and Dad. They're very worried as they age, who's going to continue to care for Dee. So this is all still about this kind of fact that he's outliving anybody that we ever thought he would. So Mom and Dad really wanted to start writing down what is a good day for him, what is a bad day, so that they would have something in writing in his book. They've made a lot of plans for him if and when they pass away, but before he does. But this would be something a little more personal. So that was something really, really important that Mom and Dad wanted to do. In addition,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I am so invested in the information that you were sharing. Really, the team taking the time to think outside of the box and thinking about how people can be a part of his life and how it could make his life better. I just have to say, I'm really, impressed with the amount of work the team has done to try to come across, together and to spell out exactly, what his experience is and what should happen and how it should happen. So great job on that.
Oh, thanks. And I'm going to be honest, Leslie, I would love to say that this was exactly what it looked like the day that we did this, right? This might be a little Monday morning quarterback, right? I don't have access to his ISP anymore, but I know what happened that year, and I know that it came from this was always the intent. And so I have, it might be one of my normal pie in the sky ones, but I think it's a great example of what an idea can really, just reconnecting with others can really get you, right? So, the other one is that people were worried on the team that what will Dee ever do if something happens to mom or dad? So this tied right in with this idea that he loves to hear dad's voice. He loves to hear mom's voice, and they have very different conversations. Dad and him talk about sports. Mom and him do a lot of prayer and spirituality things together. And so mom and dad said, well, we'll make an audio recording or a video recording. Actually, dad wanted to do a full recording. Mom was like audio only, since Dee can't see her, about how he has affected their lives and what were some positive memories. And we're like, that'll be awesome. We're going to find a way for him to have access to this so that in case something ever does happen, he will have access to that. And then, finally, he will have recordings and audio and visual of people that he cares for to listen to whenever he wants. That was really the pie in the sky. And I can guarantee you that probably wasn't on his original outcome and action steps at that time, but it's what happened. And it was great because the team took those photos and the audio and the little snippet videos, and they made them into an amazing slideshow that was available, that played in his room whenever he wanted, whenever people came over. It ended up getting submitted to a local film fest that highlights people with disabilities and their life and their value, because we got quotes from everybody. We got quotes from past teachers and direct care staff, and even his doctor, who had, really helped him thrive and live to past the age of 50. His mom and dad, talking about their positive memories. And they wanted to submit it. They wanted everybody to see it. And it turned out to be an amazing experience. He came in person. It was shown in a local film festival. And that year of having people come over and do that and have that, the family still calls us all the time about, can we update that movie? And I'm like, you don't have to update it. Just make more, right? Like, keep making those so that he has those and really makes a difference for not only him and his family, but for other people too. So this was really just an amazing outcome that I worked on. And it really shows how even somebody that has really significant challenges can really start looking at how they are a value to their family, a value to the larger community, and how they can really make a difference. So this is definitely one of my favorite stories.
Thank you, Lisa. That's great.
So, using the Ohio ISP, a clear description of services and supports will address the person's needs, achieve their outcomes, and value their choices. The plan identifies how and by whom the person wants their services provided. A description of each service should be detailed and specific, and all services listed should be based on what is learned by ongoing conversation.
And so as we look at this, Mandy, we're looking at the slide with service and supports. And we want to make sure that the things that the providers are responsible for to assist people are making sure that is part of the service and supports. We also want to take a look at their ADL skills, routines, supervision, community supports, based on the individual's needs gathered in an assessment. We want to make sure that that's part of the service and supports. But not all services need to be tied into an outcome.
Absolutely. And it's just, again, reiterating that all services listed should be based on that assessment, based on what is learned through those ongoing conversations.
Here's an example of what service and supports page would look like. Remember that the service and supports listed in the plan do not need to repeat everything that was in the assessment. It should include the scope of what the provider is responsible for, and then the provider can look back to the assessment if they need any other specifications or details. When we speak about scope of service or what support should look like, it's okay to spell it out. How often and how much lets everyone know what the frequency of the service should be and how it should be delivered. Documentation sheets can be printed out from the service and supports section, and providers might find this very helpful when they're trying to deliver the services themselves.
Monitoring and regular check-ins are critical to success. Be sure that you're talking with the person and talking with the providers. Find out what's working and what's not working. Know and celebrate success. Remember that success is defined by the person. What's been working and what has been accomplished. We should expect progress to have been made, and if it's not, then teams should discuss and revise. If at first you don't succeed, be flexible. Look at current experiences and supports and change it up. You want to promote success for the person. So if the person isn't succeeding, ask yourself why. Are there any barriers? How can we help the person overcome those barriers? What supports might be needed? This will help guide you to make adjustments that may be needed. It may also indicate that a new outcome is necessary, so revise and make those adjustments. Recognize the person may change their mind, and the team will need to adjust their supports. If the person has changed their mind, case notes would reflect that monitoring had occurred, and discussions happen regarding the person changing their mind. The assessment would be updated showing the areas changed, and then the plan updated to show the changes to outcomes and/or supports. All of these items should align to support the changes. Outcomes are a work in progress, so be sure to check in frequently. So we recognize, and Lisa referenced it earlier a couple of times, that there is no perfect plan. And even as Lisa was sharing her examples that she's developed, she was finding ways throughout the conversation in which she could improve on that outcome. And we've done the same as DODD. As we've created examples, we continuously see places that we could improve upon. And I think that's the biggest part of our job as SSAs, is to really find those areas where we can always kind of improve upon for the person, and always be evolving, always trying to do better. And so the self-review tool is a tool that was created to really help teams do this. The idea of the tool is to reflect on your work and identify areas that you may be struggling or areas that you could improve upon. And so this will give you a clear path to success, which in turn helps the person succeed. May's gathering went over the self-review tool in its entirety. And here on the slide, we just copied the self-review tool section 5 about clear outcomes and experiences. And so you see the indicators here of guidance for success in regards to this section. So just that, remembering that in regards to outcomes, a person's entire team should understand what the person wants to accomplish, what supports they need to get there. The outcome should describe something the person wants and will accomplish. The length of time it takes to accomplish an outcome may vary, but progress should be seen. And the experiences should align with the outcome and show a clear path to success. So we absolutely recommend that we continue to use this self-review tool just to further refine the plans that we're working on, and to really help guide us all just to do better and be better. So along those same lines of always trying to be better, we really encourage the use of the self-review tool, and really encourage teams to always try to be evolving, always trying to find better for the person they're serving. And so, Leslie, I think this is a great example of Susie. Can you kind of talk through us how you took a good outcome for Susie and made it even better?
So, this is a good outcome. Susie had expressed to us that she wanted to see, go to the Blossom Music Center to see Beyonce. And, after doing a few outcomes and understanding how to make some things better, I quickly realized like this was like a one-shot deal. So, she was able to go to the Blossom Music Center to see Beyonce, but then what? It really didn't give us more experiences. And so how we made it better was we basically took the revised outcome, and Susie wants to start her own singing group, because if you go back to her assessment, it basically says that she wants to have her own singing group at some point in her life. And she wants to have a sense of belonging and make connections with others to improve her mental health and mood. So we went and we took that information, we devised our outcome, and then we looked at these wonderful experiences that she could have, which included attending a Beyonce concert and a local concert, and being able to be part of a fan club and participate in activities and participate in local karaoke night, invite friends to hold a karaoke event. So we just took something that was a one-time thing and we fulfilled it with a whole bunch of things that would satisfy Susie. So I think that, when you're doing and creating the outcomes, it's okay to do good, but you're always looking to do better. And this is just a perfect example of taking something like going to the Blossom Music Center and then basically developing a singing group, participating, in a fan club, and going to karaoke night. So you want to take a look at all of those things.
Yeah, and that's something we've really talked about throughout, while we've talked about outcomes, is encouraging the teams to be flexible and recognizing that the first time you do it, you're not always going to get it like exactly right. And even with what you mentioned earlier, Leslie, about like your outcome for eating healthy and dieting at the beginning of the year usually changes by February, like a month later. And so, that can happen too. And so just being flexible and willing to continue to evolve with the person is super important.
Absolutely.
Here are some additional resources that you may find helpful. Charting the Life Course, 5 Valued Experiences. If you are getting ready to start implementing the OhioISP, check out the recorded gatherings covering the assessment and plan, and you will also find on the OhioISP webpage outcome guidance. Before we wrap up today's gathering, I would like to give a shout out to the Holmes County Board of DD for being the first county board to use the Ohio Free Online System. Thank you, Holmes County, for your partnership and the willingness to collaborate in achieving this exciting milestone. Please take the time to listen to Mimi Patterson, the SSA supervisor, as she shares their experience.
Hello, my name is Mimi Patterson. I'm the SSA supervisor for the Holmes County Board of Developmental Disabilities. First, just let me say thank you to DODD, who has selected us to be the first county in Ohio to work in the new OhioISP data system using Salesforce. I can't stress enough how supportive everyone from DODD has been throughout this process. Holmes County began looking at their options last fall and earlier this year. We were given a presentation from a third-party vendor, and then we invited DODD to come up and present Salesforce. The SSA department met to discuss what our options were, and we chose to go with Salesforce. In late April, we began our initial training with DODD. We began working in the system right away with the support from all the staff. we found that what we were so afraid of trying was extremely user-friendly. DoDD offered our department scheduled office hours so that we could use that for follow-up to address any issues and concerns that we might have. We have been impressed with all of DoDD's responsiveness and helpfulness during this time. So far, it's been a very positive experience. The SSAs have found that it is very easy to go through the assessment process, answer the questions, navigate through all the tabs. One SSA reported to me that the new system is fun and addictive to work in. They really like that it's focusing on people's strengths and abilities. So some of the things that we like about Salesforce is that assigning individuals is very easy. We can upload any supporting documents, assessments, and videos. There are helpful hints throughout the assessment process. And there's also the Need Help button where you can watch additional training videos. And lastly, the introduction page. This allows the SSA to be a little creative with font size, adding images and color. So if you're interested in learning more about Salesforce, contact DoDD or go to the OhioISP webpage to find out additional information.
Now that you have listened to the recording for the month, we encourage you to join other SSAs and county board personnel in your region to ask questions you may have. DoDD has statewide office hours for SSAs and county boards June 30th, 2022 at 9 a.m. Links to the team meeting can be found on the OhioISP webpage under Regional Support Gatherings. Be on the lookout for information regarding the July's gathering. In July, we will cover information related to Medicaid and technology, and specifically the Tech First rule. Thank you for all the hard work that you do, and thank you for attending. Have a great day.